I'm excited for this series. As you reminded everybody in the world, Luka Doncic has not beaten the Clippers in the playoffs. And that's something that a couple of people or a handful of people have repeated because of the big buzzer beater down in the bubble as well from Luka. But this is a really interesting series. I think the matchup is interesting. One team we were bullish on after they made the trade for PJ Washington, and Lively has been able to stay on the floor, and Gafford is another big they added. We kind of told everybody throughout the week on buckets that this team is coming, and they came out of the break very well, dropped a few games, got a little nerve wracking, and then they've just been ripping them off ever since they got cozy. Kyrie's been playing really well. Um, Typically, especially when it comes to, I mean, we've talked about how you should handicap individual NBA games, NFL games, whatever you are, whatever your bet, whatever your sport is that you like to focus on. You should be creating some type of prices, whether that be model or mental, whatever you come up with. You should be creating prices yourself. Coming in before we just before we hopped on this buckets live, shout out Tito, our producer, laid out and said, "Hey, BetMGM just posted the price on Clippers Mavs," and I made it like a pick 'em at the most, maybe even like Mavs minus 110 in this series. So my initial gut and thought before I really dig in is I like the Mavs here at the plus number, and we'll dig into it a lot more once those series odds and games come out.
My kind of initial reaction on it is I think it's actually accurately priced. I think that a lot of this is like it reflects home court advantage for the Clippers, right? Like
Yeah.
they're gonna have 1-7 in LA, and that's a big deal. A big thing that you're gonna have to figure out is, do you believe the Dallas Mavericks are the team that they've been since All-Star or not? And you're gonna have to decide whether or not you believe in playing at your best basketball at the right time.
Yeah.
And I can give you data that says that that's bullshit. There's a lot of it. I can give you a lot of data that says that that's just not how this works at all. When I come on here and I talk about how March basketball is not real, it's AI generated, this is the problem. The Mavericks also have the third worst differential post All-Star between their record versus teams under 500 and over 500. Now, that doesn't mean that their over 500 record is bad, but it does mean that a lot of the way that they've built this resume of their number one ranked defense over the last month and the number one record in point differential is built a lot off of beating up on bad teams. Now, that matters because that's how you get in the playoffs, that's how you win your division, that's how you get the fifth seed, that's how you carry momentum. They're playing great. I wonder about what that's doing to the market because the Mavericks are obviously right now like the it team. Like they're the team that everybody's like very super high on. And typically, like I want to fade that reaction a little bit, especially when the Clippers have so much disdain from the public. Like everybody's like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
fucking tired of this. Every year they're supposed to be good, and then they're like Kawhi's hurt, or they're not playing, or they're not playing back to backs, or like they flame out in the playoffs, like all these types of things, which is crazy because if you actually look at it, here's what happened: the bubble comes and they get bounced by the Nuggets. They go up 3-1 and they get bounced by Denver. They had a double digit lead in all the games and they still lost because they did not have the right leadership or chemistry. They rework that roster and they bring in Ty Lue. And then in 2021, they have a legit shot at making the finals. They probably should have. I think they beat the Suns if Kawhi's healthy, but Kawhi injures the knee versus the Jazz. And so then the Clippers miss the playoffs, and then the following year, they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, and so like they are not prepared for what needs to be like coming. They have just not been this team. They were a title favorite back then. Now it's been a long time, but I also think some of the guys have gotten better. Terrence Mann, Coffee, like they've got guys now, but the Mavericks have gotten a lot better too. A lot of the data is saying that basically Daniel Gafford's like an elite rim protector now. He's never been that. That doesn't mean that he's not now. I'm just trying to figure that out. That's where I got to get into the tape. I don't think you need to bet into this market right now. I think it looks pretty sharp to me on the surface. I do think that if you like Clippers, here's what I would say. If you like Clippers, you need to be more patient. If you like Mavericks, you probably need to be more urgent. because I do think that the price is going to move towards Dallas. Like this came out tonight. Once the other books start putting it up, I think Dallas is going to take money. Everyone believes in this Mavericks team, and especially in Luka Doncic is the best player in the series. We've talked about the perception of them versus the Clippers versus the reality. I think if you're a Clipper, if you're like, I think the Clippers are going to win this series, wait, because I think this moves towards the Clippers. You definitely want to look and see what those series prices are. You might be able to get a game one and games and win the series bet. There's a lot of ways to bet this for both teams, but I think in particular, I think Dallas is the team that's going to probably take money. But that's speculation on my part. Sean, do you feel like the pros are going to come back in and fade this public perception of the Mavs, and this is going to go back? Which direction do you think that this series price is going to go?
I think it's going to go in Dallas's favor. Also, I think we're talking around a big story about Kawhi Leonard and the surgically repaired right knee that is currently having flare ups and inflammation that has kept him out to have him playing a game in September yet, or excuse me, in April yet. So that is also that's going to affect the price in a major way, depending on what kind of information comes out about Kawhi Leonard. If all stays as is and Kawhi is expected back, I still do think that Dallas will take money in the market because of everything you laid out. Luka is the guy. They've been playing extremely well. They have one loss in the last almost month. They've been playing extremely lights out. And, you know, the public perception overall is same old Clippers, old ass James Harden. He can't do anything at the basket. Not a lot of people know how well Russell Westbrook has been playing off the bench. And if we're being honest about the Clippers, when he was out, they looked terrible. When he came back, he impacted the game quite a bit for them. You don't agree with that, man?
I do. I just
He's a
I
spark
think
plug, baby. Russ brings it.
no, I'm with you on Russ.
Yeah,
Like I'm with you on Russ's value. I'm with you.
yeah,
I think a lot of the messiness that we saw, like I'm either gonna look great or I'm gonna look like a moron, and that's pretty much every day of my life. But if I'm right that March basketball is not indicative of playoff success, this series is going to be a great illustration of that. Now,
yeah.
I can still be right that March basketball is weird and crazy and doesn't actually have anything indicative, and the Mavericks can win the series on matchups and Luka being a goddamn monster. He's the monster under the bed. But, this is a great example of that. The Mavs are the hottest team in basketball in the worst time to evaluate it. The Clippers have been one of the most underperforming playoff teams in the worst month to evaluate it. So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna be fascinated to see it. There's a lower number in the market. There's already lower numbers on the Mavs. So again, if you like Dallas, you should be urgent with how you approach betting this series.
I agree.
If you like the Clippers, you can be more patient. That I think is my biggest kind of takeaway here.